Hey y'all, it's Queen J back with another episode. I'm fairly certain this is going to be episode 22 because I'm going to do something that I haven't done in a while. But we are going to drop two episodes for you guys this Sunday. I sincerely appreciate the support. Of course, we're going to start our episodes off with some mindfulness as usual. Nothing's changing. The only thing that's different this time is that we're dropping two episodes. And that's going to be pretty exciting because that means I have a lot to tell y'all. I have a lot to talk about, and I am excited. Truly excited. Like, I cannot, the excitement that I have is it's unbelievable. But we're gonna get into that in a moment. We're gonna get into that in a moment. Yeah, so as you know, before we get into the topic, before we do anything, we always want to center ourselves and make sure that we're good mentally so that we are receptive to new ideas and learning. So, pause, breathe, relax. It is now time for us to open our mind, to be receptive to learning new things about healing within this lifetime. It is now time for us to navigate authentically around healing, understanding what it means, and navigating around becoming new in whatever way that means. It is now time for us to be willing to receive blessings beyond our measure. It is now time for us to sit with vulnerability without judgment. It is now time for us to not so much reflect, but exist in the present moment and be grateful for all that it has to offer. All right, y'all. I hope that brought you guys peace. I hope that gave you guys some feeling of ease and calmness. So today's topics, the first one is going to touch on something that I was so afraid to talk about, but I feel like a lot of people can benefit from it, including myself. So it is exactly that, fear. Or not even, and not in the traditional way of like, oh, I'm scared to do that and I just won't do it, but in the non-traditional way where you're afraid of your success, where you're afraid of not being equipped to handle all that comes with your blessings. I guess you could put it in a category of saying like, okay, so I got this achievement, but what if I didn't really earn it? What if I didn't really deserve it? What if, right? We go down that rabbit hole. But when I say non-traditional, I really mean in the sense where so often we look at fear as like, okay, I'm afraid of that thing, so I'm not going to face it. I'm not going to do it because I'm scared, or it's quote unquote triggering, or it's challenging. I would like to preference this by saying that I have been dealing with this for the past 3 weeks, dealing with my own fears. I say that in quotation marks because it's not necessarily a fear. It's more so like oh my God, I have this great idea, I have this great story, or I have this great concept in my mind, and what if it blows up to the point where I can't handle it? Or what do I do with the success that comes with it? How will I manage that? What if it's, what if I become overwhelmed? What if I get in over my head? That type of feeling. It's not a fear of like, I don't want to fail. It's not that feeling. It's actually a fear of, or a challenge of what comes with success. It's weird. I know. I can admit that it's very weird because you would think that it's the opposite, where it's like, again, oh my God, what if I fail? So then I'm just not going to do it. But I'm more so in the headspace now. I was there before, but I'm more so in the headspace of, you know what? It's 2023 and it just so happens to be Black History Month. So I'm going to face everything that I am so quote unquote afraid of or scared of tackling. Scared. I'm going to do it while scared. I'm going to do it while feeling whatever anxieties that I am feeling, because of the simple fact that if I don't, I'm going to be sitting up in my room, knowing myself, sitting up in my room, thinking, so that was another failed opportunity. Or you let that pass you by. I'm going to be beating myself up. And who wants that? Who wants that, honestly? So it's interesting to see how fear or challenges play a role in healing. As I mentioned in the previous episodes, I've been listening to Jay Shetty. He is my all-time favorite life coach, my all-time favorite, I don't want to say he's a guru, but for me, he's like that inspiration, that role model, the blueprint, so to speak, because he's so open. But anyway, I was listening to his book. I'm still finishing it because I really want to digest and immerse myself in the book. So I only listen to it when I'm in a space where I can receive the information that I know that I need. And I was listening to it last night. And when I was listening to it, as I was listening to it, I started to have a realization. Fear is monumentally important when it comes to healing, because it can go one or two ways. And I know I just mentioned these two ways, but it's very important, because if you have a fear and you're scared of doing that thing, you're scared because you'll fail, then it's going to more than likely make you not want to try that thing. But if you have a fear of the success or of it going well, so to speak, it can set you back in a different way where it's like, well, I know I'm going to succeed, so what's the point in even trying? Or what's the point in even doing it when I know that I probably won't measure up to said success? Either way, it causes us to feel as though we're not equipped when we are. In both scenarios, you're diminishing your worth. You're diminishing yourself because you're like, well, yeah, no, I'm just going to let that happen. I'm just going to let that win. But there are so many things that happen in life that will prompt us to be challenged, that will force us in a uncomfortable space where we have to decide whether or not we're going to sit in that uncomfortableness and just sit there, or whether we're going to allow that uncomfortableness to push us to the other side and give us what's on the other side of that uncomfortability. And I was listening to the chapter Ego before, and I was realizing checking your ego is very important in healing also, much like fear is. Fear and ego go hand in hand, because when you look at it, fear is really just your ego saying, I got this, but I don't think I can handle it. But when we often set our ego aside or keep our ego in check, and we look at it from a space of, yeah, I know that there may be success on the other side of this, and that my ego feels I'm not equipped to handle it, or whatever the case may be, and we challenge that and we say, no, I am equipped. Whatever blessings come, I'm equipped to handle. Otherwise, they wouldn't be coming. And that's huge. Like last night when I was listening to this, I was writing all these notes down because it was so important to understand the level that fear plays in healing, the role that it plays. Because, like I said, it can either go one or two ways, but there's also this idea that you never want to let fear win. You never want to let the challenge succeed. You never want to be crushed by the weight of your expectations, but that's what fear is. In a lot of ways, if I state that I want or I expect an outcome to happen, that's me saying, okay, my ego is saying, I expect this to happen. And when that doesn't happen, my ego's crushed. I'm all a mess because I'm like, oh my gosh, did that happen? I can't believe it didn't happen that way. And I had to realize that because I put out a show that I am very, very attached to. It is my baby. It is my everything. And I want to put on this show again, but I have allowed my ego to keep me from doing it because I have been so afraid of the outcome. Not that it would fail, but that it would not meet or rise to the expectation that I have set for it. Meaning, when I first did this show, I wanted it to be monumental. I wanted it to have packed rooms. I wanted all the feedback. I wanted everything, and I wanted to do it every single year. And I still do. But I realized as time went on, I realized it takes a lot of time to get this show together. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of finding the right people. And I allowed myself to get really scared of the idea of its success. In terms of, this is going to be a hit. And what happens when I can't produce that again? What happens when I've disappointed the audience? What happens when all these different things came up? And each time these thoughts came up, it made me feel like I didn't have to do it. It made me feel like, well, if we know that it's going to be a success, then we can just sit back and it'll be fine. It'll be good. But I watched something yesterday on Instagram where this person is releasing their products soon. And they sat on it for 3 years because of the same reasons that I just listed. They sat on this product for 3 years because they were like, well, it's not going to, I know it's going to be a success. I know it's going to be amazing. And how am I going to deal with that? How am I going to handle that pressure? How am I going to, or not the pressure, but how am I going to handle the living up to that expectation or whatever? Right? What if I'm getting in over my head because this is too good of an idea. So maybe I should just keep it to myself. And she was basically talking about how she sat on her product for 3 years because of all these different fears. And they were mirroring the exact fears that I had about my show and regarding my own creativity and things like that, and me just publishing my work. And it's interesting because I thought I was alone in this feeling. I thought I was completely alone in this feeling. But I was reading through the comments and I saw that a lot of people were like, yes, we're excited. They were really excited and things like that. And someone brought it to my attention today that whatever you feel like it's probably not going to be impactful, more than likely it is impactful for someone else. Like, I also sit on some of my episodes because I'm like, I don't think I should publish it. I don't think I should post it. I think that one isn't something that I need to post. And I realized that's very selfish of me because I'm not doing this just for myself. I'm doing this for the community. And a lot of the times the thoughts that I do have are helpful to the community. So I'm going to make it a mission. And this time I will say mission. I'm going to make it a mission to upload the content, even if I think that it's not worthy to be uploaded, in terms of recording episodes and putting them all out for you, because I'm not the one to judge them. That's you. You guys are the listeners. You guys are my warriors. You guys give me the different topics to talk about, and sometimes I come up with my own. But as far as different episodes that I feel should be talked about, or different topics that should be talked about, I'm just going to allow it to breathe and be what they are. I think so often we get caught up in that fear of, oh my God, what if we can't measure up to the success, or whatever the case may be, either going one of the two ways, fearing like if we're going to fail, or fearing like, oh, I was afraid of the success. I was afraid of like what would come after the success, which is, it's mind blowing to me that people actually feel this way, because I feel so seen. I feel so seen because I talk about this with my family members and they're like, what are you talking about? They don't get it. No one seems to be able to understand what I'm referring to when I say like, I'm not afraid of failing. I'm afraid of succeeding. I'm afraid of what comes after because I have no idea the level of like, especially looking at it from the perspective of like, okay, where I am right now in life and what I am doing right now, thinking like, okay, how would I make that work? How could I afford that? If I start doing such and such thing, how will I be able to afford this this part that goes with it? How can I have a team? How can I and all those different things. And that's where a level of anxiety comes out. That's where a level of anxiety can stem from. That's where the fear, where it's like, okay, I know I need to challenge this, but how? Because how do you challenge something that is kind of ingrained in you? It's innate. It's not something that like I want to just pretend doesn't exist, and that's where it comes from, having to look at it and be like, okay, I'm just going to face it. Because if I overanalyzed it, if I nitpicked it, then I would come up with more reasons, more excuses to not face it, right? So, in short, whether you're fearing the success or whether you're fearing the failure, face it scared. Take it little by little if you need to. But it also comes with a level of trusting in your beliefs and trusting in yourself and knowing like, okay, even if I face this thing scared, I am never steering myself in the wrong direction. I think that's very important. Even if I'm facing this thing scared, if I'm facing this challenge afraid, I am not steering myself in the wrong direction. I cannot think that the outcome of this is going to be better, or I have to think that the outcome of this, of me overcoming this, of me getting on the other side of this challenge, getting on the other side of this fear, is going to be better than where I am now. I have to think that. Because otherwise, if I don't, I'm going to stay on the other side of that fear. I'm going to stay on the side where the fear exists, and I'm going to remain uncomfortable. And I'm just going to slowly start to get comfortable with the fear, and it's going to become a security blanket. It's going to become, oh, okay, I can fall back on that. Yep, I can fall back on that. I can slack. And sometimes slacking is okay. But in this scenario, in this time frame, in this situation that we were discussing, no, we got to face it scared. This is not the moment where we need to, okay, I'm just going to sit back and not face it. No, because what's on the other side of that is greatness. Think about it like this. Whenever you have a challenge arise in your life, something that you actually can face, something that maybe isn't like as monumental, like whenever you have a heavy feeling, because we can even start small. Whenever you have a heavy feeling, this is a prime example of facing it scared. And I know that this seems out there. It doesn't seem like you're facing it scared because you're doing this step, right? But this is a huge step. And it's a part of facing things scared. It's a part of overcoming things. If you're feeling a heavy feeling, acknowledge it. Simply acknowledge it. It's so powerful to say, I am feeling sad. I'm not saying wallow in it. I am saying acknowledge it. Talk to it. Claim it. Because the minute that you claim it, you're not scared of it. You're saying, okay, I see you. I see this feeling. I'm identifying this feeling in this moment. But I have a choice of what I want to do next. Do I want to stay and sit in this sadness? Or do I want to go to the opposite side of it? Do I want to work through the sadness little by little and get to the opposite side of it, on the other end of it, where a potential happier feeling awaits, where a sense of gratitude awaits because you've worked through the sadness? It's the same thing with whatever challenges come up in your life. Whatever other challenges come up in your life, because emotions can be hard. It's the same thing with going after your dream. If your dream has a setback, are you going to make the choice to sit in that setback, wallow in that setback, allow that setback to keep you from pursuing it ever again, while knowing that your mind is going to be thinking, dang, why didn't I do that? I can't believe I didn't do that. And you're going to start doing that ruminating pattern of negative thoughts. Or would you rather take it as, okay, yep, I got knocked down, but I'm going to get back up. I got knocked down. I'm going to acknowledge that I got knocked down. Not going to stay there. I'm going to get back up. And I'm going to put one foot in front of the other, and I'm going to work towards this dream. And the more you work at it, the little by little, the steps that you take, guess what? By the time you look back, you're on the opposite side of that setback. You're on the opposite side of that feeling. You're on the opposite side of that challenge. And that's the beauty of facing it scared. That's the beauty of doing it scared. Whatever it is that you're afraid to do it scared. It's a beautiful thing when you're able to be on the other side of that and you see, I was able to work through those emotions. You commend yourself for the journey that you made for yourself. The decision to take your power and use it for your own benefit is nothing quite like it. There's nothing quite like it. It's important for us to understand the role that fear plays in healing. Again, because, as I mentioned, it really allows you to get that understanding, get that level of understanding, especially if you're looking at fear from a standpoint of what exactly you're scared of. Is it more so the anxiety of what comes after doing well? Or is there the level of anxiety that comes from thinking about, okay, what if I fail? And one thing that I'm doing, and this is part 2 of this topic, is I have made it not a mission, but a goal. I have set a goal because I decided that this year was not going to do any New Year's resolutions, because I actually don't do them ever. I actually never say okay, I'm going to be, I never think New Year, new me, a completely different me. I'm just going to do a complete 180 or be someone totally different. I never think that. I never go into the new year thinking that. So I decided that I wasn't going to have any type of resolutions. I was just going to go after what I wanted to in my life. And one of the main things that I've been wanting to do more of is be consistent in all things in my life. So, meaning from my career, from taking a chance on myself, just doing more things that I have held myself back from doing, especially when it comes to having anxiety. Because I can't tell you how many times, like I said, I have my show that I've sat on for years because I was no, what if I know it's a great idea, and what if I'm not equipped for the success? What if I haven't done enough, or how will I handle the success, or whatever that comes with it, or the aftermath, and whatever the case may be. And I've decided whatever I am afraid of, whatever anxieties or challenges that arise in my life, I'm going to face it scared. I'm going to face them scared, whatever it is, no matter what it is. Because especially since for me personally, when I was dealing with my own familial things, especially with COVID and feeling like I lost friends and a whole bunch of other stuff, I developed a sense of anxiety surrounding social situations and like what I looked like in the world, or like what I look like in a social interaction, like questioning my face afterward, nitpicking the scenarios or nitpicking the situations. And it's really tedious and exhausting and draining. And so I decided that I was going to go after whatever it is. Scared. I was going to face it head on. One of the big things for me is, again, consistency and being able to continuously put out work that I am proud of, because so long I've been like, no, I'm just going to keep it. I'm going to keep it because what if someone steals my work? What if someone, like, all the what ifs in the world have ran through my head and have made me think, yep, okay, it's so much better to keep everything, all my art, all of my creative projects to myself, just because, nah, they're safer with me. They're safer with me. When in actuality, that's selfish of me. It really is, because I know that a lot of my thoughts and a lot of my art and a lot of the work that I have done deserves to be shared. I didn't just make it for myself. I made it for other people to experience it. And it's pretty selfish of me to say, well, it's safer in the vault. It's just safer there. And knowing that this information that I have, or the art that I created, or whatever it is, could be very beneficial for someone else, especially someone that has probably experienced the same thing, whatever the piece was, whatever the situation may be. And so when I was in the process of moving, I started to get a huge wave of anxiety, a huge wave of like, oh my God, this is so unknown. Like, I'm going to be in a totally different area. I don't really know my way around yet. Like all these different things, all these different fears started to come up in my head. And I was talking with my really close friend about it. And he was like, listen, I don't know what you're afraid of, but whatever it is, you need to face it scared. You don't even have to tell me what it is, but whatever it is, I know that you need to do that scared. Because as I mentioned, when I was listening to Jay Shetty and I was going through Instagram and seeing all these signs that I needed to talk about this, everything that you have probably ever wanted to do is on the opposite side of that fear. I actually saw a post recently where it was talking about fear and anxiety and just holding yourself back rather than holding yourself accountable. You're holding yourself back. And the post was basically saying, if you continue to sit in the fear, that's all you ever know. Whereas oftentimes in life, if you decide, okay, I'm gonna sit in this fear and I'm just gonna sit here because it's comfortable. I'm gonna sit here because yes, I know this. I'm acquainted with this. But oftentimes in life, if you push yourself past that fear and you get on the opposite side of it, of course it's gonna be scary, but face it scared. You get on the opposite side of that fear. 9 times out of 10, what awaits is what you actually wanted. Is what you actually wanted to happen, to occur, to experience, to exist in. As humans, we don't want to exist in fear. Who wants to just sit there? It's like a horror movie. I always think of it like a horror movie because if I were in a horror movie, mind y'all, I ain't never gonna be in a horror movie. That I would never even if I ever pursued like acting, I don't think I could ever pretend because no, that just would be all bad. That would just be all bad. Sorry, my brain just went on a little, done a little. But no, I would not face. That's something I would not do. But we'll just stick with the analogy here. If I were ever in a horror movie, I can't. I would never be. I would not be the person just sitting there, like waiting for the killer to come and get me. I would be running, and maybe that's because it's a part of my instinct. But I would be running, and I would be running very fast, and I would be running to get to the other side of it. I don't care how I'm getting to the other side of it. I don't care if I'm pushing people out the way. That's just me. I will be pushing people out the way, people that are supposed to be your friends on in the horror movie. If I'm ever in a horror experience, mm. This is part of the reason why I can't go to a haunted house, because I will destroy that haunted house like I did before. That's a story for another time. But what I'm saying is, push past the fear in whatever way that you have to. I'm not saying that it has to be like, okay, I'm just going to push past this fear and I'm going to go all the way in. No. There's levels to it. You kind of have to like slowly dip your foot in the pool. It's like real cold. Slowly dip your toe in, then dip your calf in, then your whole leg. And for me, whenever the water gets to my thigh, or whenever I get like to my torso, I'm like, oh, I can't do it. And I hold myself back. And that's where I have been when it comes to publishing my work. Or I guess if I had to summarize it, taking myself more seriously, like taking that risk with myself. Because the thing is, you have to believe in yourself if anyone else is going to believe in you. You have to be your own support first. And I'm learning that the more that I engage in being consistent with uploading podcast episodes and promoting my work and creating different ways for interaction with my audience members, my warriors, and everything like that, I definitely have found that the community does exist. It's just I've been too scared of the outcome to actually take that risk and be more consistent. Because like I mentioned previously, me, much like that girl that I was just referencing earlier, we're one and the same right there. I'm in the same boat with her, but if she can do it, I can do it. And you have to take it one day at a time. A lot of times, especially when dealing with fear, we want to jump all the way in. We want to just go head first. Okay, we think that if we got to face it scared, then we're going to just do a nosedive in it. We're going to face it scared. We're going to go all the way. But that's what causes the fear or the challenge to win, because you're so busy thinking that you have to do it completely, wholeheartedly. You can't baby step it. But who says that? There's no rule book that says, hey, you're terrified of this thing. I want you to go all the way in. I want you to just jump in the water without testing it first, I just want you to go. Go for it. There's levels to it. And I think for me personally, that used to scare the living daylights out of me. If there wasn't levels to it and I just had to like completely immerse myself. I'll give you another example. Another analogy within my healing journey. When I went to my father's house, I was not expecting the house that I saw. I don't know what I was expecting, but let me tell you this. It was not, I can laugh about it now, but it was not the house where I basically experienced most of my bad memories of childhood in. That's not what I was expecting. I was expecting like basically a totally different house, a completely different house. I knew that I was in a different area. I knew that I was in a different neighborhood, but the layout of the house is pretty much the exact same, except for two things that make it opposite. But it was too similar. It wasn't necessarily too soon, but it all hit me like a ton of bricks. And I tried to do the immersion therapy where you get accustomed to something over time. But I took the over time part and I said, nah, F that. We're going to just go all the way in. We're going to rip the Band-Aid off. Like, stop being a wimp. Stop holding yourself back. You can do this. You're strong. Da, 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 da. I told myself everything to get myself to do what I needed to do, which was, I thought at the time was I needed to just sit in that uncomfortableness. And a lot of times you do. A lot of times healing does require for you to sit in that uncomfortableness and that uncomfortability of healing or of an emotion or of a thought. But the main thing that healing asks for us to do is embrace the uncomfortableness. It's not necessarily, okay, just sit there and stay in it. It's accept that this is uncomfortable, accept and acknowledge, but don't stay there. Do what you can to get out. Do what you can to make yourself feel better. That's what healing is. But for me, in this scenario, in this situation, this actually happened, y'all. I just froze. My brain froze. I was stuck in the past, and mind you, I basically had gotten to the point where I was like, okay, so I'm in this house now. Yep, I'm here. I've healed with my family, but it was all so quick. I hadn't been to my father's house since he had moved. I hadn't seen the house. I hadn't even asked him about it. I was just like, oh, I'm just going to go to their house. It was a brand new house. And I just went, not knowing that this is basically going to be my childhood home, but flipped. With, like I said, two differences. And my childhood home held, yes, I had some fun memories in there as well, but the majority of the time it wasn't the best place, because that's where my mental anguish or my mental trauma started, just being honest. So when I'm in this house, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm just gonna watch TV and put the thoughts out of my head. But I got all these flashbacks coming up. I got all these different moments, like just playing like a movie while I'm walking through the house. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm good. I'm fine. And I'm pretending that I'm okay. But each time I'm walking around this house and getting acquainted with it, I'm like acting as if it's my old house. And I'm like kind of walking on eggshells a little bit. I'm getting scared. And at this point, I've reached the point in my healing where I'm like, I know how to handle this. I've read about this. I've done classes on this. I know exactly what to do. I just got to rip the Band-Aid off. This was the wrong thing for me to do at this time. My levels were already heightened. My senses were already we locked in a past that we're not even existing in anymore, but I didn't care. I basically said, I disregarded what my brain was, the alarm bells. And I told my mom, I told my mom, I said, I'm going to go for a walk. Now this would have been great because I was getting out of the house. But here's the thing. This was a new home. This is a new neighborhood. I did not know this area. Mind you, every single house in the neighborhood looks exactly the same. So if the trigger is the home itself, and it's because the home looks exactly like my past home where I faced a lot of trauma, what made me think it was a good idea to go out in the middle of broad daylight and just start walking around the neighborhood as if I knew the area? I didn't know the area. I did not know the area, but I felt that I had to face it scared. There will come a time when you need to face things scared, and there will come a time when you need to sit back and vocalize what's going on in your brain. And that was a moment where I needed to vocalize what was going on in my brain. And because I did not, let me tell you, long story short, I ended up going outside for that walk, doing my little breathing techniques, trying to calm myself down, and ended up calling someone that basically told me what I was doing at the time was stupid. And that didn't help. Honestly, it didn't, because I was like, dang, that's not what I did it wrong. So I started feeling guilty and I started blaming myself, and it just was a downward spiral from there. But I did one good thing while I was on that walk. I walked pretty far, and then I realized I don't know my way back. But as I didn't know my way back, I felt myself calm down. I literally was holding my stomach at this point, and I was breathing, and I was like, you're okay? I didn't care how crazy I seemed. This is in broad daylight, y'all. I did not care how crazy I seemed. I was like, I'm okay. I acknowledged my past. Even though I'm still breathing funny. I'm breathing funny because I was in the middle of having a panic attack. So I'm somewhat hyperventilating, but I'm telling myself, you're okay. What way did we take? What route did I take? What path did I take? I'm focusing on everything around me, because for me, when I'm in a state of anxiety, I often feel like everything around me is heightened, but I can hyper focus on the things around me as well. Meaning I can pay more attention to detail. I can pay more attention to, the trees are a certain color or the leaves are a certain color, and that grounds me. So I was practicing grounding techniques and they were working. And in the midst of me practicing this grounding technique, I realized that all I really had done was made a right-hand turn from my father's home and kept going straight. I didn't make any other turns. So once I realized that, I was able to get back to the home, and I got back there. And as soon as I stepped back in, my mom walks over to me and she goes, "Hey, are you okay?" And I was like, I was so close to saying, I was so close to lying. I was so close to letting that fear win and saying yeah, I am A-okay. I am A-okay. I am fine. This house is perfect. I'm not freaking out in my head. But something told me to speak up. And there was a little voice in my head that said, face it. Face it. It didn't say face it scared, but it said face it. And at this time, I had no idea that that's what I was actually doing. I just started trying to fix it on my own when I wasn't equipped to. So what happened was I come back in the house. My stepmom is sitting there, my mom. Anyway, she's sitting there and she goes, "Hey, are you okay? You were gone for a little bit, so you good?" And I'm like, I told her, I don't know, something about the way she was looking at me, something about the way she asked. I told her the truth. I said, "No, I'm not okay." And she said, "Is it the house?" I said, I don't know how she knew it was the house. I didn't say anything. Mind you, the whole time that I was walking around the house and I was freaking out in my head, I wasn't telling anybody that I was freaking out. I was just like, okay, I got this. We got the tools. And her acknowledging it made me feel so seen. I took a deep breath and I just told her everything. And she said, "Well, it was good that you tried to take a walk. That is good. But I actually wanted to talk with you about it before you had gotten here because I wasn't sure how it was going to be for you." So then we started talking about ways that I could get comfortable in the house, because the house looks, when I'm telling you, y'all, the kitchen looks exactly the same. The kitchen looks exactly the same. Of course, it's different decor, but it looks exactly the same. So it's the same foundation, but flipped in a way. And it freaked me out. I can't say that enough. It freaked me out. And then I talked with my dad about it, and they were like, "No, yeah, we figured you would have a hard time with it, but you tried to do it on your own, but you're not ready yet." And that's okay. I say all of that to say that if I had not have faced that moment, if I hadn't actually acknowledged what I was feeling, if I had have continued down the path of, I'm fine, I'm okay, I'm sweating, but I'm okay, if I had have allowed the fear to win, or the challenge that arose for me in that time to win, I would not have been able to say, this house is triggering for me. It's not your house per se. It is my past that is bringing up old triggers. I would not have been able to say that. I would have been, even if I hadn't have taken that walk, I probably would have still sat in like the corner of the family room and just sat there and not said anything, and probably tried to write about it, and it wouldn't have helped. Now at this time, I had a therapist. I then told my therapist about what I did, and they commended me on my strength, and they told me that I didn't necessarily do it wrong. I just rushed it. And so a lot of the times when we're feeling things, when we're experiencing difficulties within healing or while healing, it can seem so easy to just rush it. It seems so easy. It seems like the best thing to do is just pull that trigger and just keep full throttle. Just immerse yourself in it. But the thing that I learned from my therapist after explaining to her what happened, she said there is no rush. You know, this is new for you. This is a new environment for you. It's okay for you to take as long as you need. No one has a stopwatch and is saying, "Oh, how fast did you go? Did you get through that emotion yet?" No one is doing that. Yes, you should face it scared. Yes, you should face it afraid and face that challenge, but no one is rushing you to do so. You do it on your own time. And I wish that I had have learned that before, because that actually helped me get to where I am now, where I'm able to be like, okay, so I'm going to put myself in rooms where my voice can be heard and seen, and I can try to push forward my career. I can make the right connections. I can put myself in rooms where I know that my opinion is going to be heard. My voice is going to be seen. I can uplift the community with my voice. That was one of the risks that I took, because I was like, okay, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to immerse myself all the way in. But I can take baby steps with that too. For example, like I said, I like to keep all my stuff in the vault. I like to keep all my stuff to my chest. I don't like to give people my work because I get scared. I do. I get terrified of the fact that, okay, first of all, there's two levels to this, as I mentioned. One, what's going to happen after it succeeds, because I know that I know that I'm sitting on gold, basically. I know that it's awesome. I know that, like, this is a good idea. What then? Then the other piece is, oh, okay, what happens if they get it and they want me to change my voice? Or what happens if they get it and they take it and claim it as theirs? Because I've seen that so often as I was writing, as I was coming up, as I was doing all the things that I was doing in the background. I was like, oh, I don't want that to happen to me. I'm terrified. That's another fear. So the fears just kept adding up and the excuses kept coming. But if I hadn't have learned to take my time and not rush the facing of the challenge or overcoming the challenge, then I wouldn't be able to say, oh, I can be consistent. I can see myself being consistent every day. For example, another example, I go to the gym pretty much every day now. I have my rest days, but I've been consistently going to the gym for me. And that has definitely helped me with staying consistent, because I'm seeing the progress in my mind. I'm feeling it in my body. I'm seeing it physically. I'm seeing it all around. So that has been very beneficial for me and allowed me to keep being consistent, because I'm seeing the progress and I don't want to just give up midway. So it's allowed me to remain consistent. However, when it comes to writing, when it comes to publishing, there was that level of fear of, okay, if I stay consistent, then I know that this is going to be good. So again, am I equipped for that? Or feeling like I'm not equipped for that. These are all valid fears. But the big thing is a lot of the times, again, I say this again because it's so, so, so important. A lot of the times in life and in healing, there's going to come times when you're going to face challenges. You're going to have fears. You're going to have those moments where you're like, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? And you have to understand that the right thing is whatever works for you. So if you have a challenge that comes up and you feel like you need to be able to face it, first of all, do not face it on a timer. Do not make it seem like you have a deadline and you have to rush that. It could be a very difficult feeling. Like one of the other challenges within healing and within life is losing a loved one. I know I keep talking about this, but it's tough. It is so tough because I recently lost two people in my life. I know I keep talking about it, but they meant a lot to me, man. They meant a lot to me. And I'm not in a grieving space for them anymore. I'm actually like in an acceptance space. But when I was in that grieving space, it was so difficult for me because I didn't want to feel anything. I just immediately shut down. I shut down and I didn't want to talk to anyone. I wanted to isolate myself. And I wanted to revert back to just that fear instinct, that survival instinct of like, okay, I need to face this alone. I need to do this alone. And that was fear. But that level of fear was different. It wasn't a fear of, oh, no one's going to understand. It was a fear of how can I continue to live without them physically with me? It was making the personal adjustment or the inner adjustment to getting used to them being my guardian angels or a part of my ancestry, rather than me basically being able to be like, oh, I can call them. I can call them at any time. That was an adjustment for me. And it's been an adjustment. It's actually made me more cognizant of reaching out to family members with the time that I still have, with the time that they still have. Because I found myself thinking, wow, I don't want to lose anyone else without letting them know how much I truly love them. And I know that these individuals, I know that they know that I love them. I know that because we had conversations. But there's still always a part of me that's like, well, what if they didn't know? But what if we didn't get that closure? It's always that difficulty there, that fear. But once I was able to address the fear, acknowledge it, write it out, cry about it, do whatever I needed to do to work through it for myself, I was on the other side of it, looking at it like, now good and well, your great uncle and your great aunt cared very deeply about you, and they know that you felt the same. I was kind of met with this comfort, this ease of, yeah, that's right. They did. And it's okay to feel what I felt. Whatever I was feeling was valid. The same thing with any fear that comes up. Whatever you're feeling, that fear, it's valid. But face it, scared. Overcome whatever it is in the way that you know how. Don't immerse yourself in the pool until you're completely ready. You can dip your toe in a little bit, like one at a time. If, let's say, I know I use a lot of analogies, y'all, but it helps. It really does. But like, let's say, for example, one of the fears that you have, I'll just use my personal example again. One of my big fears was, again, publishing, and I started to little by little put my work out there. Of course, I have my platforms, I have my podcast, and I have my blogs and everything like that, but it's just another different, it's a different anxiety when it comes to actually giving my work to someone that's like gonna look at it and review it and be like, kind of judge it a little bit. So I took some steps and I was like, you know what? If I really want to do this, I need to at least get comfortable with the idea of other people seeing my work. So I started by signing up for newsletters where I can publish and find out about, like, okay, where I can submit. Because another big thing that I'm understanding more so now is that opportunities don't just fall in your lap. That happens once in a lifetime. So the opportunity to face your fear, that happens all the time. Because whenever that fear comes up, you have the choice to either sit in it, sit with it, deal with it, just be like, nah, I'm going to ignore you. I'm just going to sit here and ignore you. And the other option is to, you know what, I'm going to acknowledge you, but I ain't going to let you win. I'm going to acknowledge you, but I'm going to overcome you. Another big thing, I know I mentioned this before, terrified of driving to really far places. And I drove, this isn't super far, but I really did not want to drive like 30 minutes to go to one of my favorite gyms. But I did. Whole time I was like, okay, we got this. We're safe. We're good. We're fine. Talking myself through it. You do whatever you need to do to overcome it, to face it. Again, this is not because this is super important, because it's so easy to think that whenever you have to face something, you have to face it with all your might. When going little by little is perfectly okay. It truly is. There's no rush. The last thing I want to say, there is absolutely no rush. I'm going to say that again because there is no rush. But the last thing I want to say to wrap up everything is that whatever challenges arise, you have to face them. Because 9 times out of 10, if you decide that the challenge is worth it, or if you decide that, okay, this challenge has come and I'm just going to be afraid of it, you're going to stay on the opposite side of that challenge and you'll never know what's on the other side. You'll never know the outcome unless you actually attempt to get over it or to overcome it. Because I don't want to say get over it because that sounds like dismissing your feelings or whatever, but that's not what I mean. I mean, like, a hurdle arises in your life and you have to be willing to face that hurdle. You have to be willing to say, okay, I'm not going to jump over you all the way today, but I can jump over you just a little bit. I can put my toe over you just a little bit. I can put my toe in like the little in-between space to get comfortable with you. I don't have to jump over it completely. Not unless, I want to. It's interesting because that brings up my cousin. When I was learning hurdles, I was struggling with getting over them. I would fall all the time. And I would get so mad that I would fall. It would hurt my pride every time. And my cousin was like, nah. We got a hurdle right here. We got to, like, she just made like a makeshift hurdle and put it in front of me. And she was like, hurdles are going to teach you how to get through life. She said, in life, you are always going to have hurdles that come up. Life is always going to give you setbacks. Life is always going to give you challenges. You have to be willing to overcome them. She said, you may fall, you may get knocked down, but you have to get back up. You have to get back up and keep facing whatever it is. So to tie it all back, whatever hurdles come up in your life, face them scared. Because I promise you, I guarantee you that the challenge that you overcome, the hurdle that you overcome, is the sweet victory is waiting on the other end. The expectation that you want is waiting on the other. The goal that you want is waiting on the other side of it. And if not, you're just going to be stuck on the other side thinking, man, what if? And I can personally attest to that because I know, as someone who was doing it right now, I know. And this is not to say that it's going to be easy. This is not overnight. This takes time. And that's okay. There's no need to rush. You have time. There's no need to rush your feelings. There's no need to rush your rest. There's no need to rush your being. There's no need, absolutely no need to rush. There's no time limit. Face whatever it is. Scared. Beat the anxiety in the best way you know how. This has been Queen J with Let's Get Uncomfortable, episode 22. Thank you guys so much for listening. I just want to finish this up by saying we are now accepting donations for the podcast. Thank you so much to my warriors for listening. I really appreciate it. I'm over the moon. I can't even express gratitude enough, but I am so grateful. Thank you guys again for listening. Thank you for seeing and hearing me. Queen J.